I'm Melody Reynolds, 61 years old, and until last Friday, I was the senior compliance officer at Grantwell Manufacturing in St. Paul. 29 years and 362 days, that's how long I gave them. My pension was set to vest on Monday, 3 days away, the finish line after decades of loyalty. Then David Langston, the new director, called me into his office. I knew something was off the second I saw the manila folder on his desk. Friday afternoon meetings with directors don't happen unless trouble's brewing. He leaned back in his leather chair, voice casual, like he was asking about my weekend. Melody, 29 years is quite the run. But due to budget constraints, we're letting you go. Effective immediately. My stomach twisted. Budget constraints? The company had just posted record profits. He slid the folder across the desk. Your severance package. Sign by tomorrow, or you get nothing. His eyes never met mine. I didn't yell or beg. A strange calm hit me instead. This wasn't random. It was time to screw me out of what I'd earned. 3 days before my pension locked in? Too perfect. Thank you for the opportunity, I said, grabbing the folder. He looked surprised, probably expecting a meltdown. I stood, smoothed my skirt, and walked out. Janet from HR trailed me as I packed my desk, awkward, whispering, "This isn't right, Melody." I boxed up a photo of my late husband, Thomas, a plant from my daughter, and my 25-year service plaque. It is what it is, I told her, but I knew better. This was wrong, maybe illegal. The security guard held the door as I left. "Have a good weekend, Mrs. Reynolds," he mumbled, uncomfortable. I nodded. I believe I will. Driving home, it sank in. 29 years, gone with a folder and a cardboard box. I'd sacrificed for Grantwell, missed recitals, cut vacations short, spent nights poring over documents nobody else cared about. All for that pension, that security. Now they'd yanked it away. At home, I made tea and opened the severance package. 3 months' pay, no pension, no health care, and a clause to waive all claims against them. Sign by 5 p.m. tomorrow. Insulting. A legal trap to shut me up. They thought I'd cave out of fear. They didn't know me. For 4 years, I'd documented financial irregularities at Grantwell, falsified loans, manipulated reports, backdated certifications. I'd sent memos, flagged issues, presented evidence. All ignored or buried. Since David arrived 6 months ago, it got worse. He pushed cost-cutting that broke regulations, and I wouldn't sign off. So he moved fast to get rid of me. I walked to my home office, pulled a fireproof lockbox from behind photo albums. Inside were over 1,000 pages, copies of documents, emails, notes. My insurance policy. I'd kept it quiet, hoping I'd never need it. But my instincts had screamed something was rotten. Now I knew why. I grabbed my phone, scrolled to Gregory Santos, an old colleague now at the SEC. Time to act. "Gregory, it's Melody. They fired me 3 days before my pension. I've got evidence, years of fraud. Can we talk?" His voice was steady. 2 hours. Tell me everything. That night, I didn't sleep much. David thought he'd won, but he'd just lit a match. I wasn't signing anything. I wasn't going away. This wasn't over. It was just starting. I woke up Saturday with a fire in me. After 2 hours on the phone with Gregory the night before, I had a plan. He'd listened to every detail, my termination, the timing, the evidence, and didn't sugarcoat it. This isn't just wrongful termination, Melody. If your documents hold up, Grantwell's looking at securities violations. The pension dodge is the least of it. He told me about whistleblower protections and set a Monday meeting with his SEC team. "Don't sign anything," he warned. "And lock those files somewhere safe." I got to work. By noon, I'd made 3 copies of everything: loan applications with fake numbers, reports with cooked figures, emails telling staff to fudge dates. 1 set for the SEC, 1 for me, 1 as backup. I organized it all, indexed it, kept my mind sharp. No time for anger or self-pity, just focus. My phone buzzed all day. Janet from HR, "Melody, we need that paperwork signed today." David, "I can come pick it up if that helps." Tense, pushy. Then the general counsel, Miss Reynolds, signed by close of business, or your severance is gone. I let them all go to voicemail. Their panic told me they knew they were exposed. They wanted me quiet before I could think straight. At 4:30 p.m., my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw David on my porch, suit crisp, out of place in my neighborhood. "Melody, I know you're there," he called. "This is ridiculous. Sign the papers and we're done." I stayed silent. He left an envelope in my mailbox, another copy of the agreement with a note, "Final opportunity. Signed by 9 a.m. Monday." I grabbed it after his car peeled off. Same trap, new deadline. My daughter, Elizabeth, called that night. "Mom, you sound off. What's going on?" I didn't dodge. "They fired me yesterday, 3 days before my pension." She was furious. "They can't do that." "They did," I said. "But I'm handling it." She offered to fly from Denver. "No, stay there. I've got this." Sunday, I double-checked my evidence. For years of fraud, all laid out. I'd tried to fix it internally, memos, meetings, warnings. They'd ignored me, sidelined me, and now tried to erase me. David had been the trigger, but this went deeper. I'd flagged his shady cost-cutting, and he'd swung back hard. Too bad for him. I wasn't the pushover he thought. Monday morning, I put on my Navy suit, grabbed my briefcase, and drove to the federal building. Gregory met me in the lobby. "Melody, I wish it were better circumstances." "Good to see you too," I said. "Thanks for this." He led me to a conference room. 2 investigators, Angela Brennan, enforcement attorney, and James Weston, forensic accountant, waited. Angela got straight to it. "Mrs. Reynolds, once you share this, it's official. No going back. You ready?" "Yes," I said. For 3 hours, I walked them through it. The discrepancies I'd caught 4 years ago, shipments not matching invoices, backdated quality certifications, revenue spikes that didn't add up, especially after David showed up. James pored over the numbers. "This isn't minor. They've overstated revenue by 18% for 2 years. That's fraud." Angela pressed. "You reported this internally?" "Repeatedly," I said, showing my memos. "They told me I was wrong or to drop it." David buried everything I sent his way. Gregory leaned in. "And the termination?" "No question," I said. I wouldn't sign off on his latest scheme. 3 days before my pension? It's retaliation. As I left, Angela said, "We'll move fast." This is solid. I hadn't even hit the highway when Janet called, voice shaking. "Melody, something's up." "Emergency board meeting." David's locked in his office. "Rumors about the SEC." I smiled faintly. "Not surprised." "Did you report something?" she asked. "I did what I had to," I said. "What about my pension?" "On hold. They're reviewing your firing." An hour later, William Hargrove, the board chairman, called. "Miss Reynolds, we've got a situation. Can you come in tomorrow?" "No," I said. "Any talks include my lawyer and maybe the SEC." He paused, rattled. "I see. We'll arrange something." I hung up. The fight was on, and they were already scrambling. By Wednesday morning, all hell broke loose. Local business headlines screamed about an SEC investigation into Grantwell. The stock tanked, down 30% in days. Analysts who'd praised David's efficiency now ripped into the company's books. My phone wouldn't stop, colleagues fishing for gossip, execs trying to spin control. I ignored them all. Then a letter arrived from Grantwell's legal team. My termination? Withdrawn. I was on administrative leave with full benefits pending review. A blatant move to dodge the fallout. Too late. At 10 a.m., my attorney, Barbara Reynolds, no relation, just a funny twist, met me at Grantwell's headquarters. The security guard who'd walked me out Friday gave a sheepish nod. Inside, the place buzzed with tension, whispers cutting off as we passed. In the boardroom, William Hargrove sat with 3 board members and outside counsel. David was nowhere in sight. William started, looking worn. "Thank you for coming, Miss Reynolds. We're investigating your concerns." Barbara cut in fast. "Let's be clear. She didn't just raise concerns after getting fired. She reported fraud for 4 years, her job. You ignored her, then dumped her before her pension. That's the story. William squirmed. Yes, well, that's under review. Your termination's rescinded. You're still an employee, benefits intact. Including my pension? I asked, sharp. Of course, he said, too quick. And we'd like you to consult post-retirement. We value you. Barbara shut it down. No decisions today. And you'll need to explain why her reports were buried first. The meeting dragged an hour. They played shocked, claimed they'd been misled. I stayed quiet, watching them sweat. William tried one last pitch as we stood. Melody, could you tell the SEC we're fixing this? Your support would help. I locked eyes with him. I filed 47 reports, sent 16 memos, asked for 9 meetings, got 2, no action. When did I have your support? Silence. I'll tell the SEC the truth. What you do decides what that means. Barbara whispered as we left, nailed it. In the parking lot, I exhaled. Not victory yet, just the start. Barbara grinned. They're scared of you. No, I said. They're scared of the truth. Big difference. Driving home, I thought of Thomas, my late husband. He'd called my detail obsession a superpower. Maybe he'd been right. Friday hit like a bomb. The SEC demanded records. William suspended David in a memo, citing pending investigation. Stock dropped another 12%. I was suddenly the whistleblower in the news, not just Melody, the compliance grunt. It felt weird, but I stuck to the process. Gregory called that afternoon. Melody, it's worse than we thought. Fraud goes back 5 years before David. He ramped it up, but the board signed off on key deals. At least 3 new. I wasn't shocked. I figured. I couldn't get exec-level reports, but I saw hints. We've got them now, he said. It's a mess. That hollowed me out. The company I'd poured my life into wasn't just sloppy, it was rotten from the top. Elizabeth called, furious. Mom, David's on TV saying you sucked at your job, that this is revenge. Let him talk, I said. Evidence trumps lies. My reviews were spotless. Barbara rang next. Don't bite back. The SEC's clarifying your status tomorrow. Stay cool. I am, I said. But I've got something else. 3 years ago, I'd stashed emails from David's predecessor and 2 board members, schemes to juice numbers during an acquisition. I'd found them by accident, kept them separate. They weren't in my first SEC batch, but with David smearing me, they'd show this predated him. I met Gregory at the bank, handed him the envelope. This shifts everything, I said. He scanned it, nodded. It does. This isn't just David, it's the whole system. By Monday, the board would feel it. They'd forced this war, and I was done holding back. Monday hit like a freight train. Gregory called from outside Grantwell's emergency board meeting. It's chaos. The SEC dropped our prelim findings. 3 board members quit on the spot. David's flailing, saying it's all old habits he inherited. Nobody's buying it. By noon, the company announced a leadership overhaul for resignations, including William Hargrove, and David fired for cause. Stock cratered another 12%. My evidence had cracked them wide open. That afternoon, Janet from HR rang. Melody, the interim CEO wants to meet tomorrow. Can you? Sure, I said. My attorney's office. Patricia Donovan, the ex-COO turned interim boss, showed up Tuesday looking beat but focused. She didn't waste breath. Melody, we're in a crisis. You're the center, not because you screwed up, but because you didn't. You were right all along. She slid a folder over, echoes of David's move 11 days ago. This undoes your firing, backdates your employment, locks in your pension. Plus extra, 5 years salary, lifetime healthcare, and apology. We're serious. I skimmed it, said nothing. And, she added, we're starting an ethics division. We want you to shape it, consult after retirement. I didn't bite. What about David? The board? Her face tightened. Criminal charges coming. We're not shielding them. I leaned back. Justice was rolling, but I felt no thrill, just tired certainty. Barbara spoke up. We'll review this. No rush. Patricia nodded, left. Outside, Barbara asked, what now? Now they sweat, I said. The SEC's not done. 6 months later, I sat in a courtroom. David Langston and 2 board members pleaded guilty to securities fraud. David looked small, deflated, no trace of the smug guy who'd canned me. Our eyes met as he shuffled out. He knew what I'd done. The Grantwell mess was now a textbook scandal, how compliance gets ignored, how greed festers. I'd turned down their consulting gig, instead working with regulators to beef up whistleblower rules. My story had sparked others to speak up, rippling out. The SEC handed me a payout, 15% of Grantwell's penalties. With my pension and settlement, I was set beyond my wildest guesses. I started a scholarship fund for women in ethics, named it after Thomas. Elizabeth moved to St. Paul with my grandkids. We bought a lakeside place, made up for lost time, weekends laughing, watching sunsets. One night, she asked, "Mom, regret sticking with Grantwell all those years after how it ended?" I thought hard. No. I regret having to blow it open, but not the work. Integrity's not just for easy days, it's when it's tough that it counts. She nodded. You showed me that. Not preaching, just doing. That hit me. Not the money, not the win, just knowing she saw what mattered. Grantwell limped on, smaller, humbler. New bosses rolled out strict rules, sent me annual reports like a peace offering. I read them, saw the fixes, felt a flicker of pride. Some called this revenge. It wasn't. I'd done my job, tracked the truth, reported it, stood firm. This time, they had to listen. Back in that courtroom, as David's sentence was read, 7 years, I didn't gloat. I'd lost years to their games, but I'd kept my spine. That was enough. Walking out, I felt lighter. The fight was over. I'd won, not by their rules, but mine. The courtroom doors swung shut behind me, and I stepped into a new kind of quiet. David was gone, 7 years locked up. The 2 board members got 5 each. The Grantwell scandal wasn't just my fight anymore, it was a warning carved into corporate history. News outlets still called me the whistleblower, a label that stuck like a scratchy tag. I didn't love it, but it fit. I'd blown the lid off, and they couldn't unsee it. Life settled into something steady. The SEC payout, my pension, the settlement, it added up to more than I'd ever planned for. I'd spent decades pinching pennies, raising Elizabeth alone after Thomas died, always banking on that pension. Now I had breathing room. The lakeside house became home base. Elizabeth and the grandkids filled it with noise, spilled juice, loud games, the chaos I'd missed working late all those years. I soaked it in. The scholarship fund took off. Named for Thomas, it helped women break into compliance and ethics, fields where I'd fought solo too long. Applications poured in, and I read every one, picking girls with grit. It wasn't charity, it was a stake in the future. If I'd had backup like that, maybe Grantwell wouldn't have festered so long. Grantwell itself? Still kicking, but a shadow of what it was. Patricia stayed on as CEO, steering it through the wreckage. They mailed me reports every year, cleaner numbers, tighter rules. I'd flip through, nod at the progress. Not my circus anymore, but I'd left a mark. Colleagues I hadn't spoken to in years reached out, some to thank me, some to confess they'd seen the rot too, but stayed quiet. "You were braver than me," one wrote. I didn't feel brave, just stubborn. The SEC gig kept me busy. I consulted on whistleblower protections, sat in on meetings with regulators, shaped policies to shield the next me. Other companies started digging, my case had rattled cages. Compliance officers I'd never met emailed, saying they'd found their own messes, inspired to act. One wrote, "You made me realize silence isn't safe." That stuck with me. I hadn't set out to lead a charge, but here I was. Elizabeth noticed the shift. One Sunday, grilling burgers by the lake, she said, "Mom, you're different. Calmer, but stronger. Like you've shed something." I flipped a patty, thought it over. Maybe I have. 30 years carrying their weight. Now it's mine to carry how I want. She hugged me, quick and fierce. "Proud of you." David's smear campaign faded fast. His bitter employee story crumbled under my spotless reviews and the SEC's findings. A few outlets still ran his spin, but it was noise. Nobody serious bought it. Barbara, my attorney, laughed about it over coffee. He's yelling into the wind now. You're untouchable. I shrugged. I just want the truth out there. One day, Patricia called. Melody, we're naming a compliance award after you. For integrity under pressure. You in? I paused. Don't need my name on it. Just keep the standards high. She pressed, but I held firm. The work mattered, not the spotlight. Looking back, I saw the cost. Missed recitals, short vacations, nights hunched over files while Elizabeth slept. I'd traded a lot for Grantwell, believing in the system. They'd betrayed that, but I hadn't. Thomas used to tease, your superpower seeing what others miss. He'd been right. That's what broke them and built this new life. Not bad for a 61-year-old who refused to sign a lousy deal. A year after the courtroom, I sat on my lakeside porch, coffee in hand, watching the grandkids chase each other across the grass. The air smelled of pine and freedom. Grantwell was a memory now, a scar that faded but never fully vanished. I'd won, not just against David or the board, but for something bigger. The world knew it too. My phone still pinged with messages, reporters wanting quotes, compliance folks asking advice. I answered what I could, ignored the rest. Life was mine again. The scholarship fund grew. We'd funded 12 women so far, sharp, determined types who'd never let a company pull what Grantwell did. I met a few at a small ceremony in St. Paul. One, a 22-year-old named Claire, grabbed my hand. You're why I'm here. I read about you and knew I could do this. I smiled, throat tight. Just keep your eyes open. That's all it takes. Thomas's name on the fund felt right. He'd have loved their fire. Grantwell kept sending those reports. Patricia had turned it around, smaller, leaner, but honest. Stock crept back up, not that I cared. They'd offered me that award again, the Melody Reynolds Integrity Prize. I said no, same as before. Make it about the work, not me, I told her. She sighed. You're impossible. Learned that from your company, I shot back. We both laughed, a rare ease between us. The SEC work wrapped up last month. New rules were in place, stronger shields for whistleblowers, sharper teeth for regulators. I'd sat in those final meetings, watched them sign off. Gregory shook my hand after. You changed the game, Melody. Not just for Grantwell, for everyone. I nodded. Had to. Too many get crushed otherwise. He didn't argue. Elizabeth and I got closer. She'd taken a job nearby, and the kids were in school here now. One night, over wine, she asked, Mom, was it worth it? All those years, the fight? I sipped, stared at the lake. Yeah. Not for the money or the win for what it showed you. And them. She grinned. You're a badass, you know that? Maybe I said. But I'm your badass. David's name popped up occasionally, parole rumors, bitter interviews from prison. He'd lost everything, job, reputation, freedom. The board members too, fines, bans, jail stints. I didn't gloat. They'd built their cages. I just handed over the keys. The news had moved on, but the lesson stuck. Companies watched their step now. My inbox proved it. Whistleblowers citing my case, asking how to fight. I told them, document everything. Don't blink. Barbara and I met for lunch sometimes. She'd tease, you're a legend, Melody. Still hate it. Still do, I'd say. Legends are for statues. I'm just a woman who wouldn't sign. She'd laugh. And that's why you're untouchable. Untouchable felt good. Not invincible, just solid. One morning, I found an old photo of Thomas and me, early days at Grantwell. I'd been young, ambitious, believing in the grind. He'd backed me every step. I traced his face, smiled. We did it, didn't we? No answer, but I felt him there. My superpower, his words, had torn down a giant and built something better. I didn't need revenge. Never did. I'd wanted the truth out, my work respected, my years honored. I got that and more. The grandkids yelled for me to join their game. I set the coffee down, ran out. 30 years at Grantwell had taken a lot, but it gave me this, a life I'd earned, a family I'd kept, a legacy I hadn't planned. They'd tried to erase me. Instead, I made them remember. That was enough.